Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. Marie Curie. A very good morning to all the invited dignitaries, Honorable Principal, my dear colleagues, all the wonderful participants and dear students who have joined from different states of India and from different countries for the national level webinar on recent trends in materials research. Government of Karnataka, Department of Collegiate Education and Technical Education, Shri H.D. Devegowda Government First Grade College, Paduvalahippe, in association with Department of Physics and Chemistry, is conducting a national level webinar on recent trends in materials research. Considering the safety of all the participants and resource persons due to COVID-19 pandemic and the uncertainty that looms around it, the organizing committee has decided to go forward with a virtual mode, which will be conducted via Zoom. There will be two technical sessions. First session will be handled by Dr. K.M. Ishwarappa, Associate Professor, Department of Studies in Physics, Davangere University, Davangere, Karnataka, who will be enlightening us on the topic Radiation for Materials Research. And in the afternoon session, we have Dr. Sridhar M., Assistant Professor, Siddhaganga Institute of Technology, Tumkur, Karnataka. He will be handling a session on nano-structured materials for various applications. I, Vidya, Assistant Professor of Commerce, extend my warm welcome to you all on the national level webinar on recent trends in materials research. Now I request Sri Darshan A., Assistant Professor of Mathematics, to welcome the gathering. Over to you, Darshan, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. I feel very happy to deliver welcome address at the national level webinar on recent trends in material research, organized by Department of Physics and Chemistry, Shri H.D. Devegowda Government First Grade College, Paduvalahippe. Firstly, I welcome in his absence the chief guest of this webinar, Shri H.D. Revanna sir, former Minister Government of Karnataka, MLA Hodensipura constituency, the President of CDC, Shri H.D. GFGC, Paduvalahippe. I welcome Dr. G.D. Narayan sir, Principal of our college, who has been a backbone in organizing these webinars. On behalf of organizing committee, welcome you, sir. On behalf of our college and organizing committee, I wish to extend my warm welcome to Dr. K.M. Ishwarappa sir, Associate Professor, Department of Studies in Physics, Davangere University, Davangere, who has accepted our invitation to be a resource person for this webinar. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
I welcome Dr. Sridhar M. sir, Assistant Professor, Siddhaganga Institute of Technology, Tumkuru, who will be the resource person for the afternoon session. On behalf of our college and organizing committee, welcome you, sir. I extend my warm welcome to Mr. Shiva H.B. sir, Head Department of Physics and Chemistry, who has taken an initiative to organize this national level event. Welcome you, sir. We are very happy that this webinar got registered with more than 500 participants across the country, across the world. I welcome each participant who is joining us through Zoom and YouTube channel. Finally, I welcome all teaching and non-teaching staff of our college, CDC members, Alumni Association, Parent Teachers Association, organizing committee members and technical committee members of this event. Thank you, one and all. Over to you, ma'am. You have been muted, ma'am. Vidya, madam.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
You are audible.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Darshan sir. Today's chief guest, Shri H.D. Revanna sir, Honorable MLA, former Minister, Government of Karnataka, and CDC President of Shri H.D. Devegowda Government First Grade College, Paduvalahippe, could not join us due to his busy schedule. But we are very happy that he has conveyed his best wishes to all of us. On behalf of the Institute and all the participants, I thank Honorable MLA Shri H.D. Revanna sir for always extending his support for such programs. Now, moving to the first session of the webinar, we have Dr. K.M. Ishwarapasa, Associate Professor, Department of Studies in Physics, Davangere University, Davangere, Karnataka. To introduce our today's resource person, I call upon Shri Shiva HB, Assistant Professor and Coordinator of Department of Physics. Over to you, Shiva, sir.
A warm good morning to everyone. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce a successful academician and a person of achievements as the resource person of the first technical session of this webinar. Our resource person, Dr. K.M. Ishwarapasa, completed BSc with first class from Kuvempu University in the year 1994 and Bachelor of Education in 1995. Sir has completed MSc in Physics with first class from Kuvempu University in the year 1997 and has qualified in CSIR UGC NET with JRF. Sir has also completed MTech in Computer Science and Technology from University of Mysore in the year 2003. Sir has been awarded PhD in Physics by Mangalore University for his work titled Photoneutron Production and Irradiation Studies using Microtron Facility in the year 2008. Sir is actively involved in research and is a recipient of Research Fund for Talented Teacher RFTT VGST Government of Karnataka. He has 25 publications in international journals and 12 publications in conference proceedings to his credit. Sir has worked as a lecturer at the Department of PG Studies and Research in Physics, Kuvempu University from July 1997 to November 2000. As an assistant professor at Government Science College, Hassan from July 2006 to May 2019. Currently, Sir is working as an associate professor, Department of Studies in Physics, Davangere University, Davangere from June 2019. Apart from teaching, Sir has been associated with academic bodies and associations as a member of Board of Studies in Physics, UG and PG, Reva University, Bangalore, member of Board of Studies in Physics, PG, Bangalore City University, Bangalore, a member of Board of Studies in Physics, PG, Davangere University, Chairman BOE PG in Physics, Davangere University, a member BOE, Reva University, Bangalore. Sir is a life member of Indian Association of Physics Teachers, IAPT, life member of Indian Society for Radiation Physics, ISRP, life member of Nuclear Track Society of India, NTSI, also life member of Indian Association of Radiation Protection. Sir has many awards and recognition to his credit. Sir is an editorial board member, Nuclear Science Publishing Group, New York, USA, reviewer for Elsewhere Publication Journal, Annals of Nuclear Energy, reviewer for Springer Publication Journal, Nuclear Science and Techniques. Very importantly, Sir has designed, fabricated and characterized the microtron-based photoneutron source and neutron radiography assembly installed at Microtron Center, Mangalore University in collaboration with Bhabha Atomic Research Center, BARC, Mumbai, India, which is first of its kind in the country. It was formerly commissioned by former Atomic Energy Commissioner, Dr. M.R. Srinivasan. He has got Best Paper Award at International Conference on Recent Advances in Physics for Interdisciplinary Developments held at Satyabama University, Chennai in the year 2014, and Best Paper Award in National Seminar on Quality Assurance and Quality Sustenance in Higher Education Institutions, Challenges and Issues, organized by Government Science College, Hassan, 1st March 2016. Being grateful for accepting our invitation, on behalf of my college, I once again wholeheartedly welcome you, sir. Over to you, madam.
Thank you, Shiv, sir. We are really lucky to have such an eminent personality amongst us. Before starting the first session, few instructions to the participants. If you have joined through Zoom, please mute yourself when the session starts. And in case of any query, please post it in the chat box. At the end of the session, all the queries will be addressed. We would appreciate if you can write your name, designation, affiliation, and place while posting the queries. And feedback form will be provided in the chat box. And it is compulsory to fill the feedback form. And if you are joining through YouTube, please subscribe to the channel so that you can post your queries in the chat box. And please write your name and designation in the chat box. Your attendance will be monitored and the certificate will be issued to only those who are actively participating in the session. Now I would like to hand over the session to Dr. K.M. Ishwarappa sir, who will take us through the topic radiation for materials research. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, madam. So, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it volume level is okay, madam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So first of all, let me congratulate the organizers, particularly the dynamic leader of the college, Professor Narayan sir, and also express my sincere thanks to Shivu, the faculty of the Department of Physics, Padavali Government College. Since I've been associating this college for a quite long time, many of the college faculty I know very well. And in fact, Shivu was my student during his graduation at Asan Science College. So in fact, he was my best student also. Yeah, I'm right. So anyway, in fact, your introduction of your college was really online. It was a very nice. It's in fact quite good that you need to present ourselves to the world. And it's your team has made a very good job, sir. They have presented your college in a very nice way, so that all audience will come to know for a while about your college. So with this, I'm going to start my talk. My talk, all of you know, my talk is on the radiation for material research. And let me first share my slides. Shivu, is there PPT is visible to you?
Sir, it is visible, sir. Kindly full screen it, sir.
Yeah. Now?
Now also, sir. Yeah.
Maybe it's because
Yes,
of it's
delay.
sometimes it is loading for
Yes, sir.
somebody. It's okay. Right. I hope all of you could be able to see my slides. Okay. Right. See, I'm going to for a 1 hour from now, so discuss on this radiation for a material research. Since I've been heard that from Shivu, quite a lot of participants are student category and also faculty is there. And for the benefit of the student category, I'm going to starting from some little bit fundamentals about the radiations units, radiation measurements units. Those who are faculty, they may know these things. Kindly bear for a while. This is for the benefit of the students, these fundamentals. See, the meaning of the radiations is the type of energy given up from the source of its origins. And radiation can be defined as the form of energy propagating as a particle waves. So, you know that these, as per the interactions, how these radiation interact with the matter, so we can classify these radiations as ionizing radiations and non-ionizing radiation. And of course, this categorization is mainly based on the energy of the radiations, that is the energy of the radiation for the ability to ionize the matter. So from this diagram, we can see what are the energies of the various radiations. So the gamma rays are the highest energy radiations, and these radio waves are the very least energy radiations. See, this is the right one symbol indicates it's somewhere it is displayed means their potentially radiations are there, or something like a radiation source is there in that location. And this is the symbol to represent the radiation source. So let me explain what do you mean by ionizing radiation. Radiation in the form of particles with a distinct energy are capable of ionizing the material. Ionization, all of you know that it's the removal of an electron from an orbit, outermost orbit of an electrical neutral atoms. Because of the difference in the incident particle energy, these particles and radiations have a variable penetrating power, which significantly affects the living tissues if it is exposed to the tissues of any animals. More energetic radiations are capable of striking the electrons out of the orbit from the nucleus. It is called an ionization. So these ionizing radiation source can be natural as well as an artificial radioactive product. Natural means from the cosmic backgrounds. You know that cosmic rays consists of both high energetic particles and also low energy particles. See, in order to know their relative penetrating power, this picture clearly depicts which radiation has more penetration power and which radiation can penetrate what sort of a material. See, if you look at this diagram, the alpha particle can be stopped using a very thin paper, right? Which means their penetration power is very, very less. When it comes to the beta particle, they can penetrate the thin sheet of a paper, and also they can penetrate to some extent to the human tissue. If it is an energetic beta particle, they can also penetrate to a complete, bone structure also. And if you come to the neutron, it can penetrate these metals and tissues, bones, but we can stop using a thickness, a few centimeter thickness of water. I will come to the later why we can stop. And when come to the gamma rays, so it can penetrate the paper, tissues, metals, and water. Even it can penetrate the concrete, but it is stopped by light. Yeah, so in the case of gamma rays, the absorption, penetration power, it depends upon the energy of the radiation, and also it depends upon the atomic number of the absorber. For a moderate energy gamma rays, the absorption is mainly dependent upon the, of course, for all the energies, absorption is dependent upon the Z value, atomic number of the material, but it is very, very, very high for the low energy gamma radiation. It is in the range between up to 500 kilo electron volt. The absorption is proportional to the fifth power of atomic number. Z value of the material. That is why these gamma radiations of high energy gamma radiations we can absorb using the light. It doesn't mean that they won't absorb the low Z materials like in concrete, which has an aluminum, calcium, things like that. But the absorption is less, as most of them are the low Z elements. When it comes to the neutrons, see, neutron is some sort of a peculiar particle. These radiations are highly attenuated by low Z material, and contrary to the gamma radiations. And they can be simply stopped using the low Z material like water, or even some sort of paraffin wax. The paraffin wax is an hydrogenous material, right? So why? This is because the interaction mechanism of neutrons with the matter. These neutrons interact quite differently in the matter compared to the gamma rays. See, the neutrons, say for example, why these neutrons are easily attenuated in a low Z material like an heterogeneous material like paraffin or water? Because, see, These neutrons interact through a matter by the elastic and inelastic scattering and absorption. These are the two important phenomena by which neutron is interacting with the matter. So when it collide with the particles like hydrogen, they lose their energy very in a few collisions. They can lose their entire energy. For example, if you take in a 2 MeV neutron, 2 MeV is a bit quite high energy neutron. This neutron, 2 MeV neutron, loses its entire energy. Its energy becomes almost thermal energy within a few collisions. In case of hydrogen, it can attain then a 0.2 thermal energy in 18 collisions, right? And it takes us more and more number of collisions if you go higher and higher atomic number materials. This is mainly because the neutron, when I collide with an hydrogen or a proton, right? So it is something like a collision between two particles of almost comparable mass. All of you, we have studied that in an elastic collision between two particles of comparable mass or equal mass, the delta E, change in the energy transferred during the collision, exchange energy is very, very high when the two particles have the same mass. When M1 is equal to M2, delta E is maximum. That's what you learned in our collision studies, right? That's the main reason why this neutron loses energy very quickly in a few collisions when it's interact with the low-Z material, right? So whereas the gamma rays, since its absorption is proportional to Z, if the higher is the Z, higher is the absorption, lower is the Z, lower is the absorption. So this, in fact, we can think it as some sort of a God-given gift, because whatever the information is provided by, whatever the information not provided by the gamma scanning or gamma interactions, gamma ray absorption studies, that can be obtained using the studying the neutron interactions. And whereas the beta particles are again the charged particles, the high energy beta particle can also give interaction and study of these irradiation of these electrons, high energy electrons will also give some favorable changes in the material. So I'm studying the interaction of these charged particles also very important, like a beta particle and alpha particle. Of course, alpha particle moving to its heavy mass, it's whatever the effects on the material, and it's only on the surface level.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, am I audible?
No, sir. Little bit noise is there. That means clarity is not there, sir.
Okay. Now?
Now it is okay, sir. You can switch off your video, sir. Then network will be good, sir.
I will do that. Okay,
yes,
1
sir.
second.
Now it is okay, sir. Voice.
1 minute. That's a better idea to switch off the video. Okay. Is it okay now?
Now it is okay, sir.
Thank you. So, with this brief introduction about the particle interaction mechanism, now let us move on to the radiation units. Because when we are dealing with the radiations, then we need to know how these radiations, the quantity of radiation delivered to a certain material for its chain. We need to know what are the units being used, standard units being used all through the world. See, first of all, the oldest unit used was the Roentgen, radiation exposure unit. It's a radiation exposure unit. It's a measure of ionization of air due to ionizing radiation from photons, that is gamma rays or X-rays. It is defined as the electrical charge freed by such radiation in a specific volume of air divided by the mass of that air, right? And the unit for that exposure, radiation exposure measurement is an roentgen, and the symbol is a capital R. That's what usually we used to represent roentgen. One roentgen, roentgen is defined as the quantity of X-rays that produce the 2.58 into 10 power minus 4 coulombs of charge in a per unit mass of the kilograms. So radiation exposure has been, unit of radiation measurement in terms of radiation exposure has been superseded by the concept of absorbed dose, which takes into account the absorption characteristic of the target material. What has happened in case of exposure, it does not take into the consideration of absorption of a characteristic of a target material. It simply gives what is the radiation exposed to the material. It won't take any what is the amount of radiation absorbed or undergone interact with the material. It simply gives the total exposure dose. So now the different units have been used for radiation absorbed dose. Okay, Shivu.
Sir,
I'm getting some participant would like to admit. I'm getting the notice here. Could you take that as for your side?
okay, sir. I'll do that.
Okay. So another unit of measurement of radiation is an absorbed dose. As I told you, this absorbed dose takes care of amount of absorption characteristics of the target material. When an ionizing radiation penetrates the human body or an object, it deposits energy. The energy absorbed from exposure to the radiation is called absorbed dose. The rad is the unit of absorbed radiation dose, and it is defined as 1 rad is equal to a 0.01 joule per kg. When a 0.01 joule of energy is deposited in a material, in a 1 kg of material, it is equal to the 1 radiation absorbed dose. In a short form, it is called rad, R-E-A-D. Right? In fact, rad is a very smaller unit. It has been replaced by a bigger unit called a gray. A gray is the unit of again absorbed radiation is equal to the dose of 1 joule of energy absorbed per kilogram of matter. Right? 1 gray is equal to 100 rad radiation absorbed dose. It's an SI unit. Now it's a quite commonly used unit is in a gray to measure the radiation absorption in the material. So now, it is just though it is this unit is not related to this talk. So for the sake of completeness, I'm going to explain this. What do you mean by an equivalent unit? When a radiation absorbed in the living matter, a biological effect may be observed. All of you know that it produces some biological effects, radiations. Because, see, equal dose absorbed will not necessarily produce equal biological effects. The biological effect depends upon the type of radiation, whether this biological effect is due to the alpha rays, beta rays, or gamma rays, or neutron, and biological effects will be different depending upon the type of radiation. For example, say 1 gray of alpha radiation is more harmful to a given tissue than a 1 gray of beta radiation, right? So to obtain the equivalent dose, absorbed dose is multiplied with a specified radiation weighting factor or a quality factor. For example, the quality factor for a beta rays, gamma rays, and X-rays are kept 1. This is an internationally accepted standards. And for a thermal neutrons, its quality factor is more, which means that which produces a more damages, more effect on the tissues compared to this beta, gamma, and X-rays. And for fast neutrons and alpha and protons, the quality factor is very, very high because of their masses, high masses. And for a heavy and recoil nucleus, heavy ions and other heavy recoil nucleus, the quality factor is 20. The quality factor is more means it produces more biological effect. The biological effect is more for a particle which has a high quality factor or high weighting factor. The equivalent dose is expressed in a measure called sievert. In the medical physics or in the oncological departments of any hospital, so they are used this unit, sievert. The 1 sievert of alpha radiation will have the same biological effect of 1 sievert of beta radiation, because in order to get the sievert, we will multiply the corresponding rad with the quality factor. Means if you multiply the absorption radiation absorbed dose with the quality factor, we will get a sievert, right? So in other words, the equivalent dose provides a single unit that accounts for the degree of harm that the different types of radiation would cause to the same tissue. Because the sievert takes care of the quality factor, the 1 sievert of alpha radiation and 1 sievert of beta radiation is same, right? And of course, Rontgen equivalent man, it's a unit of measurement that takes into different biological response to the different kinds of radiation. As I told you just now, Rontgen equivalent man is equal to rad into quality factor, and whereas the sievert is the gray into quality factor. That's the only difference. Okay, now let's see, coming to our actual topic of the webinar, where we are most interested in role of radiation materials. See, material used in the nuclear, in the very beginning, the radiation effects, study of radiation effects were intended to know what are the damages caused in the materials used in the nuclear reactors, because the nuclear reactor is an environment where a high background radiation environment it has. So the one is interested to know what are the effects of these radiations on a material, so that we can corresponding measures can take in the operation of the nuclear reactor for a smooth running of the nuclear reactors. So that was the main motivation in earlier radiation damage studies in the materials. Materials used in the nuclear technologies suffer from degradation due to the radiation. And because of the impact of the radiation, the material get degraded. And the goal of research, the goal of research on a nuclear material is to understand the effect of radiation and use the knowledge gained to improve the material resistance for the application in energy production and the storage of radioactive materials. The changes that are, in addition to that, because of the changes that occur in the materials by radiation can also be exploited to develop material with the special properties that cannot be achieved by the conventional methods of synthesis. It's been studied, it's been a well-established science that these radiation can produce the changes, right? So those changes can be exploited to develop the materials with some special properties. So this has opened up a new areas of research involving the use of radiation effects and radiation-based techniques for material synthesis and characterizations. This was actually the current scenario in the material research, to produce or develop materials with special properties. Before going to the actual some material actual materials which are synthesized using the radiation, and let me explain what are the sources of radiations people are commonly using for material research. The first and foremost source is the particle accelerator. You know, the particle accelerator is a device is used to increase the kinetic energy of the charged particles. And the gamma chamber. A gamma chamber is some sort of an isotope-based radiation source, gamma source. Commonly, the cobalt-60 will be the radiation source, which is kept in this gamma chamber. And other important sources of radiations are nuclear reactors. Of course, they are important, but their accessibility is very limited, and so everybody cannot access this because of the limited number of reactors present in a given country. And one more source of radiation is an ion beam sources. Ion beam sources, we can get these ion beam sources in some sort of an accelerators called an pelletrons, wherein ions like nitrogen ion, lithium ion, oxygen ions are ionergetic ions of these nitrogen, oxygen, lithium you can get. So ionergies ions are very important owing to their heavy mass. They can give them very bring some sort of a changes which can be exploited for the better. To develop required properties the material. So these are some important sources of radiation. Let me explain briefly the one by one. This is the particle accelerator called a microtron. Why I'm taking this as a first radiation source is because it is easily available, and it is there in Bangalore University. It is easily accessible, so one can use this facility just by writing a letter to the Director Meteorology Center, Mangalore University. They will allot you the beam time. So as and when you allot, you can go there and perform your experiments or irradiate your samples. Depends upon your needs. This is a microtron chamber, and this yellow portion is a region wherein the electron acceleration takes place, and upper and bottom plate of this yellow chamber are the magnets, and inside that there will be a cavity wherein the electrons are emitted due to this high electric field. And these emitted electrons are made to accelerate in this high electric field created by the microwave cavity. Because they are using the microwave cavity, hence it is called the microtron, right? And when they get accelerated to a required energy, these electrons are extracted. This blue portions is having the beam, electron beam line. And these are blue colored magnets are called steering magnets and quadrupole magnets in order to control the beam path. And the steering magnets, the steering. So in order to put these electron beam in a straight or in a required direction, and these quadrupole magnets are used to focus and defocus the electron beam. And at the exit point, and this white color one is what is known as the Faraday cup to measure what are the number of electrons are ejecting out of this beam line. It is measured in terms of milliampere. All right. Generally, the beam current here is some around 35 milliampere. This is what I worked in this facility, so I know this some of the parameters of these accelerator. And here we can get electrons of up to 9 MeV. We can vary from 4 MeV to 9 MeV by inserting the extractant channel to the various orbits in the microtron. I'm not going to the details of the theory or working of this accelerator. And these electrons being bombarded and the materials under research, and that material will be kept in this using this perfect sheet as a support. So this perfect sheet has become, at the where the electrons are bombarding, it has become some sort of a crack. These cracks are created due to the bombardment, a constant bombardment of electrons, because the same sheet is being constantly used for the keeping the samples. And over a time of 1 or 2 months, this sheet, perfect sheet, has become like this, which means this is in fact, I can say that it's in a electron radiation effect on this polymer perfect sheet. It's mostly contains hydrogenous and carbon materials. So here we can use your samples, solid samples, or you can also use the liquid samples in some vials for study. And you can irradiate for a required dose, and the persons, so there at actually maintaining persons, they will set what is the time duration to get a particular dose of electrons. In order to deliver the particular dose of electron beam, they will set the beam current and the time for which it has to expose. Accordingly, you can get whatever the dose of radiation delivered to the particular material, because whatever the dose, it depends upon the at what time you are exposing. Longer is the duration of the exposure time, more and more the dose delivered to the material under investigation. So another important source of radiation and quite extensively being used all through the world is a synchrotron radiation. All of you know the synchrotron is an accelerator, wherein we can get very high energetic the charged particles, and these energetic radiations are used storage, the called what is storaging, and this storaging can be used to produce photons of various energy depending upon the location from which in the various part of the synchrotron you are extracting. So if you are extracting, you can extract high energy photons, low energy photons, and also very low energy photons called UVs, right? Here there are many stride sections for undulators and regulars. Undulators, see, are the inserting sections, right? These are the insertion section devices from high energy physics point of view, and usually part of a large installation. And a synchrotron storaging, or it may be a component of free electron laser, right? The periodic structure, it consists of a periodic structure. I mean, these undulators are consists of periodic structures of a dipole magnets, and these permanent magnets are a superconducting magnet. It can be permanent magnets or superconducting magnets. And the static magnetic field alternates along the length of these undulators with a wavelength. These electrons traversing the periodic magnetic structure are forced to undergo oscillations, and because of this, they radiate energy. The radiation produced in an undulator is very, very having high intense beam and concentrate in a very narrow energy bands. It is also highly collimated. The energies, whatever the radiation is produced, highly collimated. And this radiation is guided through a beamline for experiments in various specific areas, right? Similarly, Wrigler is an insertion device in a synchrotron. It is a series of magnets designed periodically for a lateral defect of the electron beam, right? These deflections, because of the lateral deflection, they create a change in the acceleration. You know, any accelerated particle, when it is get deaccelerated and undergoes deflection, it emits energy. So which in turn produce the energy. It's called the synchrotron radiations. And Wrigler as a broader radiation as a broader spectrum of radiation than in undulators, right? So, and this synchrotron is a source of very brighter radiations for spatially resolved studies because of the smaller beam, more suitable for microscopies. Means we can concentrate very high intense radiation to a very small region of space. For example, we can take an image of a wing of a small insect. A wing, image of a small insect. We can take the image of the small wings. Also, we can take the image of a very small insect. How exactly this? When it eats something, we can see how this food is processing inside the insect. Such a finer aspect also we can see using this highly intense and highly focused low energy X-ray source from the synchrotron. So this is in fact an Indus 1 synchrotron radiation facility, which is available at Indore, Madhya Pradesh, right? In our country, we have the center called Center for Advanced Technology. Now it is renamed as an RRCAT, Raja Ramanna Center for Advanced Technology, in the name, in order to commemorate the achievements of Raja Ramanna. Dr. Raja Ramanna is a famous nuclear scientist of our country produced. Right. This is an Indus 1 facility in which the electrons are accelerated up to 450 MeV, and it is storage, what is known as electron storage ring, and where in a different portions of the storage ring one can get the different energy photons. Right. So each sections where you are extracting the beam, it's called a beam lines. For example, this Indus 1 facility has a around some 7 beam lines. For example, the beam line 7 is for photo absorption spectroscopy, and say for example, beam line 4 is for soft reflective things like that for a different purpose. Say for example, the beam line 4, it is for photophysics studies, things like that. Similarly, another Indus 2 in the same place indoor, we have an Indus 2. It is in fact quite energy is around 2.5 MeV, 5 GeV, giga electron volt. Here the more and more beam lines have been provided in order to meet the ever expanding demands of a researcher from all over the country. See, the each beam line is for a specific purpose. For example, beam line 24 here is an X-ray beam diagnostic, visible beam diagnostic. The beam line 23 and X-ray beam line 7 is an X-ray lithograph, and things like that. Various types of research one can perform using this Indus synchrotron facility, which is available at Madhya Pradesh indoor. Right. Another type of radiation source is a gamma chamber, and in fact, it is available in many places in India also, and even in our Mangalore University is also available. Even in Mysore University is also available, and the radiation source here is the cobalt 60 of the activity around terabecquerel, 518 terabecquerel. 1 becquerel, the 1 particle per second emission means 1 becquerel. It is in terms of Curie, it is equal to 14,000 Curie, right? So which means that equivalent, if you convert this cobalt 60 flux to dose, the dose rate will be around 9 kilogram per hour, right? 9 kilogram per hour, it can deliver the dose rate of 9 kilogram per hour, right? So this irradiation chamber is located in this vertical shaft. This vertical shaft can move up and down with the help of some driver system. So it because of that, it enables exact positioning of the irradiation chamber in the center of the radiation field, right? It also having some access holes of diameter, 8 mm diameter, are provided in the vertical shaft for introduction of services, leaves for gases, or some sensors to measure the temperature and things like that. And this gamma chamber can be used for various research studies, including the radiobiology, preservation of tissues, and also see our point here is to know that this gamma chamber can also be used for radiation, study the radiation effects on materials, right? Not only for this, you can use for quite a broad spectrum of applications. And these are the standard calibration source radioactive. Just for sake of completeness, I am presenting this slide for those who are young students who are participating in the seminar. So this type of radiation sources you can see at your physics laboratory in your colleges itself, and these are very low activity source of the order of microcurie, right? Microcurie, the 10 power minus 6 per second. Per second. I mean, 1 Curie, the 3.7 into 10 power 10 disintegration per second. The microcurie means a few tens of thousands of particles emitting per second. It's not so harmful. We can handle with our bare hands. And these are some sort of a sealed radiation sources. And these sealed radiation sources are used to, whenever the activity is very, very high, in the order of millicurie, then we need to use these sealed radiation sources, which are generally kept inside the lead chambers, right? And also some neutron sources which are kept inside the lead chamber surrounding with some hydrogenous material. All of you know, I just explained that neutron can be stopped using a very low Z material. And in fact, the hydrogen is a very, paraffin or water is a very good shielding element very good moderator to reduce the energy of the neutrons. We generally use this hydrogenous material, paraffin mixer and water at 2 or 2 meter. Whatever may be the energy, 1 meter or 2 meter phantom of water is enough to stop completely the neutrons. So now let us come to the what are the radiation effects on the materials. See, the energy radiation, whether they're in the form of charged ions, electrons, neutrons, or electromagnetic radiation, photons, X-rays, or whatever it may be, can have some permanent damage effects on the material, which are of practical importance. The radiation damage is the result of displacement of atoms. We can see here, whenever radiation bombarded the material, there can be some displacement of atoms. As a result of the displacement of the atoms, the vacancy is created in that displaced post, and this displaced atom can sit in a lattice site somewhere like this. It acts as what is known as interstitial atoms. So radiation, as I told you, the radiation damage is the result of displacement atoms in a solid by a particle passing through it. And the particles which remain embedded in the solid acts as an impurities. These, interstitial atoms, and of the ionization produced by the particles. To understand it, we must know what effects are produced in the solid by atomic displacement and the impurities. In order to know the radiation damage, then we should know what effects are produced in the solids due to the atomic displacement or impurities. These effect due to the atomic displacement or impurities are similar whether they are produced by the radiation or by other mechanisms. Even if this displacement is due to some other mechanism instead of radiation bombardment, the effects will be same, right? That's what the meaning. That these effects are similar whether they are produced by the radiation or by other mechanisms. So in a nutshell, the study of a damaged solid can be broken up into two parts. That is, how did this atom get where they are, means whether they are in interstitial position, how they get to that interstitial position, whether due to the radiation or whatever mechanism, it is almost same. And what effect do these atomic position have on the properties of the material, right? These are the way we can consider, in order to understand this damaged solid, we can classify these effects. So one very important aspect of this radiation damage study, using that damage studies, whether we can see what properties are altering in the material, right? Depending upon that, so we can exploit those properties for the development of the, in order to introduce the required property in the material or the development of the suitable material for the intended application. So we can modify the device properties. For example, devices like a transistor, thyristor, something like that, we can modify by radiation. The principal consequence of radiation on electronic material is the radiation-induced defects. Vacancy or interstitial or divergency or defects. These are all the radiation-induced defects. Or we can say we can introduce this type of radiations these defects in using radiation, because these defects can create by other means also instead of radiation. So these effects are related to both the properties of the irradiated material and the type of radiation. I mean, to the type of radiation the material is being exposed. Nowadays, the focus is on the development of the new methods related to the hardening of the electronic devices and to improve their operation in the radiation environment, right? So in the radiation environment, so their operation, because of the radiation defects, their properties get altered. So before putting these device materials for fabrication of the device, we need to study what happens to their performance when it is exposed to the radiation. So prior to the fabrication, we need to study, we need to characterize, or we need to standardize their properties by exposing the suitable level of radiation. The radiation-induced effect can also be used in manufacture of electronic device for intended modification of semiconductor materials and also the final properties of the final product. So by using radiation, in fact, these thyristors, for example, thyristors are generally used in high power applications. The thyristors are high power applications. They're mainly using as switching applications. The switching properties, switching speed can be increased by exposing these thyristors. Because of the defects or the properties of these thyristor material get altered as a result of exposure to the radiations, and thus changes in the properties has been exploited for the increase in the switching speed. In fact, this particular research has been carried out at Mangalore University Microtron Center when it is installed during the year 2005. At that time, they carried out this research, radiation effects on these thyristors, and they actually come to the conclusion that it has been increased the switching speed of this thyristor, and this is being commercially used by our BHEL, Bharat Heavy Electronics Limited, for their high power applications. And another important aspect of this material is one can, again, you can modify the materials. For example, in the case of radiation, when the radiation polymers, in case of polymers, the polymers get exposed to the radiation, because of the cross-linking, these polymers have acquired some different properties, and also sometimes it get hardened, right? So in a polymer. Radiation processed polymers possesses a superior mechanical, electrical, and thermal stability compared to the conventional cross-linked one. The cross-linking can be done in other methods also, but the advantage here is that the radiation produced cross-linking has a superior mechanical and electrical and thermal stability compared to the conventionally cross-linked methods. Why it happens? Because when the polymer is exposed to the radiation, the reactive species called polyolefin is produced when it is exposed to the high energy electrons. Polymer is exposed to the high energy electrons. This polyolefin is responsible for the formation of cross-linking or networks in the polymer, resulting in the increased molecular weight or improved some physical characteristics like tensile strength, viscosity, elongation, and also dimensional or high temperature and dimensional stability. So in this way, so we can modify this polymer to according to our requirement. And in fact, the people have studied the neutron transportation using the neutron, and the people have tried the doping of a semiconductor by exposing to the neutron radiation. The basic of this study is that when a neutron interacts with an element, it undergoes transmission through a nuclear reaction. For example, when the gallium-31 bombarded with the thermal neutrons means a low energy neutrons, which are having energy of the order of EV from 0.025 EV to a few K electron volt, right? So these thermal neutrons, why thermal neutrons? Because they have very, very high absorption cross section. The probability of undergoing this interaction is very, very high if the neutron is having the low energy. Most of the elements having more absorption cross section for thermal neutrons. For example, here when neutron is bombarded the gallium 3169, it captured and produces the gallium 3170, right? This gallium 70 have a half-life of 21.1 minute, and it undergoes this beta decay. You know that when it undergoes beta decay, atomic number increased by 1, it produces the gallium. In this means in a gallium germanium, which means that we can produce the germanium atoms in a gallium sample with a very clean and green process. So it's very clean because it's produced through nuclear reactions. Means we are indirectly doping the germanium atoms in a gallium sample, right? So similarly, so using these neutrons, we can also obtain the doping concentration of around 10 power 18 gallium atoms per centimeter cube. Now let us, this is the theory behind that. I don't want to go to the details of this because I have a lot of things to explain. And another important thing using the radiation is we can synthesize the metal nanoparticles using the radiation. For this, people are used, as I told, the synchrotron radiation. They have used the synchrotron radiation. As I just discussed, the synchrotron radiation is a very high intense beam, right? So here we can use this highly focused intensity X-ray from the synchrotron to synthesize the metal nanoparticles, plasmonic metal nanoparticles. The plasmons are the oscillation of free electrons that are the consequence of formation of a dipoles in the material due to the electromagnetic waves. The plasmonic nanoparticle exhibit interesting scattering, absorbance, and coupling properties based on the geometries and relative positions. And these unique properties have made them focus for research in many applications because these metal nanoparticle, plasmonic metal nanoparticles have very unique properties, scattering, absorbance, and coupling properties. And because of that, made them a focus of, because of these unique properties, have made them a focus of research in many applications, including solar cells, spectroscopy, signal enhancement for imaging, and cancer treatment. See, in the case of a solar cell, for example, so whatever the panels, solar photovoltaic panels we have, the conversion efficiency is not more than the 60%. 100% conversion is not possible till today. But we can increase using these plasmonic metal nanoparticles, right? So because this is because some of the light escape back into the environment when the light bombarded the solar panel. Moreover, because of the different color of the color component of sunlight, solar cell might be more efficient to particular colors or less efficient to some colors, right? So how we can do this radiolysis? Here the idea is that introduction of small electrical disturbance called the surface plasma. When the light shines, electrons, how this actually effectively increase the efficiency, this plasmonic nanoparticle increase the efficiency means it introduces a small electrical disturbance called surface plasma. When a light shines, these electrons waves set up on the surface of the metal. And these electron waves moves like in a ripple in the water. If the metal is of the form of nanoparticle, the shining of the light on this can make this nanoparticle to vibrate and hence scatter the light more effectively. Hence, the more effective coupling of the light takes place with the solar panel. In addition, the scattering process is strong if the light contains the resonant colors. Resonance colors, when the frequency and energy of absorption matches, there will be more absorption. How exactly the radiolysis process can be used to synthesis, these metal nanoparticles are depicted in this diagram. The action of radiolysis of water will be induced by the X-rays. This is a very high intense X-ray from the synchrotron chamber. And this high intense X-ray results in the generation of an hydrated electrons, right? Which these hydrated electrons, which plays a very, key role, the strong reducing agent towards the metal ions, right? So this picture clearly explains these metal ions, these hydrated electrons combines with their reduction take place, and upon nucleation, we will get a metal nanoparticle. This is the mechanism with which you can produce the metal nanoparticles using the radiolysis. So we can use this radiation for synthesis of porous polymer synthesis also. Because this porous polymer have a very quite a broad spectrum of applications in chromatography, hydrophobic chromatography, and affinity chromatography of large molecules for separation and purification of proteins, antibodies, and viruses. What are then these porous polymers? Porous polymers are attracting much more interest as a result of their applications, which have both potential, real and potential applications. And these are having applications in the material science, including the drug delivery, tissue engineering, and chromatography and water treatment. So using this radiation, one can synthesize monoliths with the same chemical structure, but of various sizes, pore sizes, shapes, and porous. How to produce the various size polymers? By altering the radiation, irradiation temperature, by altering the dose and dose rate. Total dose delivered is a different, and the dose rate is a different. Means dose per unit time is called the dose rate. The dose rate is also important, right? By changing the dose rate, we can also bring some different changes in the materials compared to the integrated time integrated dose. So we need to study what is the effect change in the effects by changing the dose rate also. So one can produce the polymer monoliths suited for different applications by varying these parameters: monomer concentration, type of solvent, irradiation temperature, dose, and dose rate. So apart from this, we can also produce some sort of a colored jumps, right? Colored jumps using the irradiation, because the radiation, in fact, this is a well-established technology in India itself. People are commercially producing these colored gems. Because how these colored gems are produced, they are exposing these ordinary gems, naturally available gems, to the electron beam, right? And because of this electron, this radiation, when you expose to the electrons or any high energy radiation, the electrons are knocked out of some atoms, leaving them free to be absorbed by others. This has the effect of creating some sort of what are known as a color center, which in turn alters the light absorbing pattern of gemstones. When it alters the light absorbing pattern of gemstones, it will actually produce different colors, right? So in a way, by delivering the different amount of doses, one can produce a different colored gems. I think I've given some glimpses of applications of various radiations, and in a brief radiation effects also. I have not touched upon the theoretical and the detailed experimental aspects, how it is produces. It is just to my intention is to just make aware of these things, so that young students they can explore how they are produced and things like that. Then so that they have they can put their sincere effort in using this radiation for bringing the reliable and intended changes in the materials. So I have also been presented what are the sources for radiations available at what are the various parts of the country, so that those who are promising researcher or future researchers or scientists, they can look into the possibility of using these facility for their research. With this, I'm going to stop. Now, I think I'm ready to take up any questions.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, please, madam.
Yeah, thank you, Ishwarappa, sir, for such a wonderful briefing of the subject. Now I call upon Sri Shiva HB, Assistant Professor of Physics, who is the rapporteur of this session, and he will give a crisp summary of this and also will communicate with participants. Over to you, Shiva.
Thank you, madam. It was a very nice, informative session, sir. Now I have got some questions from participants, sir. Now I will read out one by
please.
one.
Yeah, please.
First question. Whenever a metal is irradiated with ionizing radiation, does it changes its ionization potential? This is the first one, sir.
Is question completes?
Whenever a metal is irradiated with ionizing radiation,
yeah, I
does
got
it
the
changes its ionization potential, sir? Target material.
Yes. See, ionization potential won't change. It's a ionization potential is an intrinsic property of an its particular element or a particular atom. Ionization potential won't change.
Okay.
As I told you, these whenever exposed to the radiation, metal or a semiconductor, whatever it may be, of course, the effects are somewhat different in a metals and semiconductor thing. I have not touched upon the basic physics, right? I have just given an overview. As far as your question is concerned, it brings, displaces the atoms, whatever the properties which can change due to the displacement or creating of a vacancy in the material, or same whether it is the displacement is due to the radiation or by some other means. For example, the property like electrical conductivity, right? A compressibility of the material or thermal conductivity, these properties will definitely get altered. So by looking into the what is the changes in these properties with the exposure to the particular dose of the radiation, accordingly we can tailor the properties of the material for the depending upon our requirements, right? We can tailor using the radiations. You can tailor the properties of the semiconductor material, for example, using the radiation by delivering the suitable amount of radiation to the particular semiconductor or metal, whatever it may be. The properties will going to alter, not this particular, basic property like ionization potential. Ionization potential will be not going to change. It is an intrinsic to the element.
Okay, sir. In continuation to the first question.
I hope I answered the question.
In continuation to the first question, does it changes its crystal structure, sir?
See, I told you, so since when exposed to the radiations, the atoms can dislocate, right? They can bring brought to the some interstitial locations. Depending upon the how many such interstitious atoms are there, then obviously, so you will get some sort of a different basic structure will not be changed.
Okay.
But because of these dislocations, creation of vacancy and divacancy, you may get, so if you analysis through some X-ray and those, the signature of these dislocations and those things you can get.
Okay, sir. Next question is, sir, as radiation results displacement of atoms, so is it responsible to change the structural arrangements of molecules or ions?
Molecules or ions, I don't think so.
Okay.
Structural is not possible. As far as see, this is a macroscopic change. Displacement of an atom is a macroscopic change, you know.
Okay. Next question, sir. How does dose rate make changes in the sample?
I mean, anyway, I hope their dose rate means the dose delivered per unit time, right?
Okay.
Means suppose some materials require the high dose rate to displace the atoms, or high dose rate to bring about the certain intended changes because of their intrinsic nature of the material. They need some high energy. As I told you, when these radiation bombard on that, for example, neutron, they may undergo collisions, right?
Yeah.
So whatever the neutron number per second is bombarded, it's also matter. See, suppose if the 10 neutrons are bombarding, right, it brings about the certain changes in the material. At the same time, instead of that, the 20 neutron per second, again, it will be some sort of a different changes it can bring, right? Similarly, in the case of X-rays, right, the dose rate is also important.
Okay, sir. Last question, sir. How gamma irradiation remove defects from crystals?
No, we can create the damages. We cannot remove.
Okay, okay.
When it is exposed to the radiation, some sort of a permanent defects will be created. And of course, in our group itself, we have studied some damages are very temporary damages also. Most of the radiation damages are permanent, but some are transient. For a little time they exist and they get annealed after some time. That's what we have could able to study. How can we observe? Study the samples, irradiate the samples and study immediately, and study after some, say 1 hour, 2 hour, or 1 day, 2 days. Let us see by seeing the what is there any changes in the observed property when you observe immediately after the exposed to the radiation. Like that, you can study whether the damages are permanent or temporary, things like that. But most of the damages caused in the material are permanent.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think there are no questions.
Shiva, sir.
Okay, madam.
Sir,
Now
there
you
is
can take.
Sir, there is a question in the chat box by Pramod Mase. Have you addressed that, sir?
Yes, yes, madam. I have addressed it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, thank you, Shiva, sir. On behalf of the institution and organizing committee, I would like to acknowledge our gratitude to Dr. K.M. Ishwarappa, sir, for accepting our invitation to share his knowledge with all of us. I wholeheartedly thank you, sir, for sparing your valuable time. If time permits, I request you to join the afternoon session, sir.
Thank you, madam. 1 minute before ending my session, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this national webinar. I particularly am very grateful to the principal, Narayan sir, and the Shivu, who is taken a very keen interest in organizing this seminar, and also the afternoon session speaker, Dr. Sridhar. I'm also very thankful to you for accepting my suggestions to accept the invitation of this college, and also I wish the success for the afternoon talk of Dr. Sridhar. Thank you, Shibu. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Narayan sir. And thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Professor Ishwarappa, sir.
Sir, thank you.
We are very happy. Please join afternoon. Otherwise, I want to say my regards and glad. Bala Kushi Aitu. We are very happy. I'm also production of the Kuala University. So we are from universities. So thank you, sir. Thank you. Please. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Shivu, shall I leave?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Just one few seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, in the afternoon session, we have Dr. Sridhar M., Assistant Professor, Siddhaganga Institute of Technology, Tumkuru, Karnataka. He will be handling a session on nano-structured materials for various applications. The session will start at sharp 2 p.m. All of you, please join us at 1:45 p.m. with the same enthusiasm. You can use the same link to join through Zoom. If you are joining through YouTube, join through the second link. Thank you one and all for attending this session. See you all at 1:45 p.m. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Shubh. Shall I leave?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.